Peace and power. This your big brother Syke once again with another episode of Strategies of Manhood. Today, what I'm gonna talk about is what seems to be a war of the sexes. It seems that men and women are in constant conflict with each other when we are the basic elements of elemental parts of one particular whole that's supposed to create balance for each other and create a power squad. For some reason, we're not able to do that. And I'm going to get into some of the things of why it seems that we're not able to do that. So before we start, I need you, if you haven't to subscribe, to hit the like button, show your boy some love, show the channel some love, help the channel grow, share the content, and get friends, family, and anybody else you feel like needs to hear these words to subscribe to the channel. I always start my videos out with peace and power, and here's the reason why. The word peace literally means the absence of conflict. Not just conflict externally, but internally. You see, usually if you'll pay attention to it, we'll have a mind state or a thought process that says, I want this. But then we'll have an emotional drive that's going in the opposite direction, which ends up producing stress and conflict between our inner selves and our own thoughts. So that's chaos, the opposite of peace. True peace is usually it comes with an ideology, a concept, or a philosophy that helps us to create balance between that inner conflict. You know, the famous and great master builder G that most people on the planet call Jesus once said, I think it was in Matthew chapter 5 verse 9, he said, "Blessed be the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God." Now the way I think, I'm an analytical thinker. The way I think, I say, okay, the man just gave me the formula to be a son of God. He said that all I have to do is be a peacemaker. And a peacemaker will be blessed because they will be called the sons of God. So now I got to understand what a peacemaker is. And a peacemaker is someone who makes peace. So then I have to understand what peace is. Peace is a peacemaker has the ability to make a cessation between that internal conflict between mind and emotion. And the way he does that is with wise and righteous teaching. So I always start off and I say peace. But I also say power, because power is the ability to bring about a result in your environment. That is the major thing that any human being should want, the ability to influence their environment and protect their own lives and their own situations. So I say peace, absence of conflict, and power, the ability to bring about a result. So anyway, let's get to the content that we're going to deal with today. The war of the sexes. It seems that men and women are in conflict with each other. We want each other, but at the same time, there's almost a distaste in each other's mouths for one another. You know, I'll go on Facebook a lot, social media, Instagram, things of this nature, even YouTube, and I posted on my Facebook page not too long ago. What are the first questions that you ask on the first date? And all of the women that responded, most of them, I ain't gonna say all, majority, like 90% of the women responded with something negative. I'm talking about, it was like, I was reading this stuff and I was like, oh my God. Because I was looking for content. I wanted to know what was on women's minds and what would they bring to a discussion on the first day, because I was going to utilize that as content. But then when I read all that negativity, I was like, God, this seems like women almost hate men. It almost seemed like that to me. And I'm not going to say men are innocent of this, but it seems like women hate men. So then I looked into it and I started seeing the negativity of the conflict that we have between each other. One, let's look at this. Now, look at how we look at relationships. You have three basic ways people will look at relationships. You have the 730 relationship, the 50-50 relationship, and I'm going to say the last for last. Let's deal with the 730 and the 50-50. A certain group of people believe that the relationship is supposed to be 70-30, with the men giving 70% and the women giving 30%. What does that mean? Because she believes that, okay, we both supposed to come into the relationship, love each other, have sex with each other, be there for each other, but the man is supposed to pay all the bills, take care of all the financial needs, buy her things, take care of any financial needs she has. So that puts a greater weight on him in the relationship. He has 70% of duties to perform in the relationship, while she only has 30% of the duties to perform in the relationship. And most of the duties she's performing benefits her anyway. Then you have a 50-50 relationship where people say, you got to meet me halfway. I want a 50-50 relationship. Well, and that's self-explanatory, but I think both of those types of relationships are flawed. And this is just my personal opinion. I believe that a true beneficial sound relationship built on a stable foundation is 100-100. That means that one human being brings 100% of themselves to the relationship and the other human being brings 100% of themselves to the relationship. These two human beings are stable and fit on their own, able to take care of their own basic needs and able to build and elevate their own situation without somebody fulfilling them or completing them, those false concepts. And then they make a decision because of that stability to merge, just like two companies. When you have a company that's strong on its own right and you have another company that's strong on its own right, and those two companies merge and they create a powerhouse. That is, in a relationship wise, that's called a power couple. You had Procter and Gamble. Those were two separate companies that formed and then they dominated that industry. Those two separate companies, they have equal power and they say, hey, if we come together, then nobody else can deal with us. And that's what a man and a woman is supposed to be able to do for one another. Nobody wants to merge with a weaker company unless they're planning later to do a hostile takeover. And that's one of the things that you have to understand about why we need to be able to create that equality. You know, women, when women start working and start making their own money, you'll have a lot of women start screaming, I don't need a man. I can pay my own bills. And you know, that's cool. And I'm the type of man, because I can cook for myself, wash my own clothes, clean my own house, will say I don't need a woman. But that's not necessarily true. Both parts can be independent, but learn how to be interdependent with each other. And that's what's supposed to go on in a relationship. But that's why we're having such a conflict, because we don't understand that. We're still operating on false ideas and false concepts of what a relationship is supposed to be. And then let's look at this. Let's look at this. And one of the reasons why we have these false concepts and false ideas of how a relationship is supposed to operate is because usually when a man and a woman come into the relationship, they not only come into the relationship with their own baggage, but they come into the relationship with their selfishness. Let's look at that. By nature, human beings are selfish. By nature. And I can break this down scientifically. Now, anyone that knows me or that follows my channel and really actually sits down and listens to these videos know that I have the penchant for getting on my Bill Nye Science Guy routine or my Neil deGrasse routine and build on something. I like to deal with the actual facts and not just how I feel about it. So let's deal with the actual facts of the statement I just made. I said human beings by nature are selfish. Now, the human brain was developed in 3 stages. Those 3 stages scientists call the R complex, the paleomammalian brain, and the neocortex. Now, the R complex is the first part of the brain that's growing. It's basically just the brain stem. And it starts growing inside the mother's womb during the first 3 months of gestation, basically the first trimester. And then let me explain what the R complex does. It's basically the same brain that a turtle has, that a lizard has, that a serpent or snake has. That's how they have. That's why they call it the R complex, because they call it the reptilian brain. And this brain basically deals with the basic survival mechanisms of the human being. It's the part that controls your heart, that controls your breathing, that makes you, gives you the fight or flight syndrome, that makes you need to go to sleep, to take care of your basic needs. And it's the part of the brain that deals completely with your own basic selfish desires, period, point blank. And that's the first part of the brain that evolves. So the human being at his essence, at his foundation is selfish. And you got to think about this a certain way. That ensures the survival of the human being, so that you don't have to gain special levels of intelligence in order to make sure you survive. The basic instincts for survival is basically encoded in you in the first part of the brain that starts to develop. Then in the next 3 months of the second trimester, what they call the paleomammalian brain starts to evolve. That part of the brain is a small part in the center of the brain that grows right on top of the brain stem, and that part of the brain deals with that part of the brain deals with your emotions and your ability to evolve memory. That's where you develop that. So when you start getting emotionally involved with things, or when you memorize or remember certain concepts and ideas, or even experiences and events, that comes from your paleomammalian brain. And every mammal on the planet essentially has that. And then the last part of your brain to evolve happens in the last 3 months of your gestation in the mother's womb. The third trimester is the neocortex, or the neo means new, or the new brain. That's the part of the brain where if you ever see a picture of a brain, that spongy thing that you see, that's it. That's the neocortex. That's where our intellect and our intelligence evolved. The ability to design and create smartphones, to develop communication, technology, things like that evolved out of that part of the brain. And just in that part of the brain is also the part of the brain that developed empathy in that part of the brain, the ability to feel for another human being. So essentially, at our beginning, we're selfish with the brain, with the R complex, and then last, that evolution takes place where we actually gain the ability to care about what another person is going through. Only 4 creatures on the planet have a neocortex: a dog, a dolphin, a chimpanzee, and a human being. And the human being has the highest developed neocortex. So we don't have to stay selfish. But my point is, I wanted to explain scientifically, I wanted to deal with the actual facts of the fact that we are by nature selfish. And we have to evolve out of that through actual a desire to come out of that being selfish. So when human beings come into relationships with each other, we come into that relationship trying to fulfill our own selfish needs. No wonder we have such conflict when men and women try to get together. You'll hear nowadays a lot of women will say, if you look at any of the dating sites, if you look at any of the social media, the women will say, I'm dating with a purpose. But see, what they fail to realize is that everybody dates with a purpose. The only problem is everybody's purpose is not the same. But everybody thinks that their purpose is the most important purpose. Everybody believes that what I have proposed to date for is the most important reason to date. And if you're not dating for that, then you don't have a purpose. You see where I'm going with that? And that goes back to what I'm talking about and what I mean with the human being being basically selfish. And this is why we have so much conflict in our association and our affiliations with each other. And I can prove that statement. This is not just me telling you how I feel. I can prove that statement by building on the science of it, because that's what I always like to do. I like to build on something. I like to analyze, break it down, and then put it back together so that we can deal with it from a logical, rational standpoint. But I'm not fit to do that right now. I'm going to do that in part 2 of the War of the Sexes. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, like the video, get a friend of yours to subscribe, and make sure that you check out part 2, because not only will I build on the science of why we are selfish by nature, but I will in turn build on some of the things that men and women can do different so that we can stop having a war of the sexes and start building with one another. Peace and power.